We are going to start with your ninth module. The ninth module is abstraction and encapsulation. So before going for the abstraction, we are going to learn the encapsulation concepts. What is encapsulation? That we have already learned in that how the encapsulation works, how to include the encapsulation concept in your programming, that we are going to learn here. Okay, so first point in this module will be encapsulation and data hiding. Abstraction we are going to learn later. Why, that I will explain. Okay. So encapsulation and data hiding. What we have learned, what is the encapsulation? Encapsulation is nothing but we are hiding the data. It is the mechanism of wrapping up the data, that is variables and code together, that is data or methods we can say, together as a single unit. Basic example of encapsulation is class, because class, when we create a class, we wrap the data, that is variables and methods together, right? So the basic mechanism of encapsulation is wrapping the data and code together as a single unit. Basic example is class. Second example we have seen for the encapsulation was nothing but a capsule, where we are wrapping up the medicines, multiple medicines in a capsule, right? So the variables of the class will be hidden from other classes and can be accessed only through the methods of their current class. So when we say that we want to achieve the encapsulation, we want to hide the data from our outside world, we always hide or we always use the data members, which is nothing but the access modifier, private data members. Those are nothing but we are going to apply to the variables so that your data will be hidden from other classes, that is from the outside world. Okay. If we make the data members as private, then how can we access those data members? We need something to access those data members, right? We need some methods or any other members, right? So instead of writing any these members as public or with default accessibility, whenever we are creating the private data members, we create the public methods to access these private members. In this way, we can achieve the encapsulation in Java. These methods, public methods, are also known as getter setter methods or accessor mutator methods. Okay. So basically, using encapsulation, we are hiding our data. Okay, we are hiding our data. So advantages of encapsulation we are going to learn here. Okay, so data hiding is a way of restricting the access of our data members by hiding the implementation details. Encapsulation also provides a way for data hiding. So main use of encapsulation, this is nothing but a mechanism we are combining or wrapping up the data and code together as a single unit, as well as when we say that encapsulation, we always use it for data hiding. Okay. So example of encapsulation, simple example. We are creating one class. In that class, our data members should be private data members. Those are not be accessed outside of this class. Okay. To access these members, we are creating two methods. First one is the getter method. Second one is the setter method. What is the use of getter method and setter method, that we will see. Okay. So for these two private data members, basically 4 methods we have created. How to create this, what is the purpose of creating all these methods, that we will see directly in the example. Okay. So this is basic example of encapsulation. Another example is class human being. Here we are creating one private member, that is height, and two public methods to have access the private member height, that is the setter method and getter method. Another member in this human being class is weight, where we are creating two public methods, setter method and getter method for weight, and private BMI for calculation of whatever the BMI will be. So this public method set BMI and get BMI we are creating. Here there are two other classes, health analyzer and BMI indexer. Okay, so these two classes basically uses these public methods to access the height, weight, and BMI values. Okay, it will never use these private members because these private members are basically only accessible within this human being class. It will not be accessible outside of this class. Therefore, these two methods, these two classes need this information. Then they have to use the setter and getter methods to set the values and get the values. Okay, so we will see one example first. Encapsulation example. For that, we are creating one package inside the src folder. New package. Module 9 is the package. Inside that package, I want to create another package. So I'm using dot operator, and the name of that package will be encapsulation, because I want to keep all the encapsulation related classes in a single file, okay, or single package. We will create another class in the same encapsulation package. You can see this here. The name of the class I am giving as encapsulation demo. Include the main method, finish. So here in this class, we will create another. So here we are creating another class. Okay, the class, suppose the name of the class, which is M1 class. Okay, in this M1 class, I just want to show you how to use the private members and how those are hidden from the outside world. Okay, so the two members we are declaring here, which with private data accessibility, suppose those members are integer A, private int B. Okay, these two members which we are hiding from outside world. Okay, so we are hiding data from outside of the class. Okay, now we have declared these members as private. If I want to access these members, we cannot access those members directly because these are private members, and you know that private accessibility is only used when you want to give or when you want to save the data, hide the data from the outside of that class. It shouldn't be accessed outside of the class. To access these members, we need to create accessor or getter method. If we are setting any value, right, to this A variable, then we want to retrieve that value. If we want to retrieve that value, we need to use getter method. By the name itself, it will suggest you that getter. That means we are getting a value. We are getting a value. Second type of method is mutator or setter method. Okay, that is nothing but we say it as we are setting some value to this private members, right? So the syntax for the getter and setter method is like, by default, you know that we can create the constructors to set the values, right? So you can use the public constructors also. M1, this is a default constructor where I can set default values for these members, right? Suppose 10 for A, and for B, I'm setting 20 value. This is we can do. As well as you can create public M1 parameterized constructor with these two members also to set the values. This dot A is equals to A variable value, and this dot B is equals to B variable value, right? This is normal, which we have already seen. You can use the constructor also to set the values. But if you don't want to, when you are constructing, when you are using a constructor, that means you are creating an object. You have to initialize that object. You have to instantiate that object. Then only you can call the constructor. Apart from that, you cannot call the constructor. Suppose you thought that you want to access this or change the values of this A and B variable. It is not accessible, right? So we will try that. I am creating one object here. M1. M1 is the object. New M1, right? Now here By default values get set for the A and B because we have called the default constructor. To see the values of the A and B, I'm generating here toString method just to view the values of A and B. Okay. Because you know that toString method is used for giving you string representation of object. Okay. System.out.println, I'm only displaying M1 is equals to M1 values. Okay, let's execute this and check whether we are getting the same output, right? So we are using default constructor to set these values. After this, suppose I thought that I will use one more object, M2 is equals to new M. Here I am using parameterized constructor. Okay, and I have displayed this again. M2 object, M2 object, right? So we will get the values of M2, 50 and 70. But this is when the values get set. Whenever you are creating or initializing a new object, at that time only you are setting the values. It is not able to set the values after that. If I thought that I want to access this M1 or M2 dot A variable, we cannot access it. We cannot access it because those are in the same file. These two classes I have written in the same file, which is encapsulation demo.java. But the accessibility is always private accessibility. That means it has only scope within this class. It cannot be accessed outside of the class. So you cannot access it outside of the same class. Okay, though you are written that class in the same file. Okay, so we cannot modify that value later. To modify this, we need the accessor and mutator methods. Okay, the syntax of accessor method is we always use get. Okay, starting always the method name should start with get. After get, whatever the name of your variable is or data member is, you should start with in the camel case. Okay, so here we are using this is a syntax basically for getter method. Okay, this is the syntax for getter method. Now, if I want to create the getter method for a variable, then the method will be, this method is always a public method. Okay, public. It is always a void method. Okay, we never use any other data type for getter method. Okay, so we can create here public void get, then a is the variable name. This method always, sorry, this is not a void method. It is the data type for this return type will be the same as the data member. Okay, so if we are creating the integer data type, then the data type will be that itself. Okay, so whatever the data type you are using for that variable, that should be the return type of this method. Sorry, I missed it. So here the data type will be integer because get method always return the value of this variable. So this has a single statement, that is variable value should be written. Return statement will be there. So this is the syntax for getter method. Now this is also known as accessor method because we are accessing the value of a variable, right? So it is also known as accessor method. Next is the mutator method or setter method. As the name suggests, it will be used to set the value. So public, here you can use void. Okay, then the syntax of setter method is always starts with set, then the variable name, okay, in the camel case, and the data type and variable here again you want to give in the same manner which you are using for constructor, parameterized constructor, right? In the same manner you are using you are defining this setter method. Okay, so this is nothing but public void set access used to change your variable name. Then you have to mention the data type, what type of data you want to set, and then the variable name. Here it has this dot, whatever the variable name is, data member is equals to this variable you have to set. Okay, it has only a single statement to set the input value to the data member. ठीक है, जैसे हम यहाँ पे कंस्ट्रक्टर में सेट करते हैं वैसे ही आप ये सेटअप मेथड लिखोगे. सेटअप मेथड सेम तरीके से हम लिखते हैं टू सेट द वैल्यू विच इज we are getting as an input to this setter method, and that value we are setting to the data member using this keyword. Okay, so this is basically syntax for setter method. So getter method always return a value, setter method always set a value. Okay, so we will create public void set. I want to set the value for a variable, so the name will be a. Here I'm using the same int a variable, and we are setting the value this dot a is equals to a variable. Okay, we have already seen what is the meaning of this statement in the constructor itself, right? So same तरीके से आप यहाँ पे getter and setter methods, accessor and mutator methods write down कर सकते हो to access the private data members. So how to use these methods? So first of all, I will create one more method for B. So the public, it is also integer type, get B. It also return the value, B variable value. Okay, get B is the method where this method returns B variable value, and we are creating one more public void set B method, which is a setter method. Here I am setting set integer B. This dot B is equals to B. Okay, so these methods, now you can use these methods to set the values anytime. So suppose we can change this statement using the setter method. Now these methods, accessor mutator methods, are always instance methods. Okay, so this method will get memory allocation will be done when you create the object of the class. Unless and until you are creating this object, it will never have any memory allocated. जब तक आप इसका ऑब्जेक्ट क्रिएट नहीं करते हो तब तक इसको मेमोरी एलोकेशन नहीं होता है. These all accessor mutator methods are instance methods. Remember this. These are instance methods. Because instance methods, why these are instance methods? Because we are using the data members, right? Instance variables. If we are using instance variables, you have to create those methods as instance methods itself. We have seen this part also, right? So instance methods, these are instance methods. So if you want to call these instance methods, you have to use object of the class and then you can call it. Now I want to set a value to this a variable, right? So I will call set a method where I can pass the value 60, right? Now when the method will call this set a for the M2 object, it will set this value this dot a is equal to a. That means for the data member, we are setting the 60 value, right? Similarly, if I want to change M1 objects B variable value, okay, to 90, I can do that also. Now, if you want to check the values which are changed here, I can M2 will be here and M1 will be after this set B. Okay, it will display both A and B values. Now you will see the changed value, right? M1 M2 के लिए 60 है and M1 के लिए हमने B वेरिएबल की वैल्यू 90 सेट की है, ठीक है. सो वी हैव चेंज दीज वैल्यूज. This is a use of setter method. Now, if I want to access the value of particular variable, suppose of M1 object, I want to access value of a variable. So you can call M1 dot get a method. This getter method returns the value. That's why I am concatenating that value directly in the system.out.println. If you want, you can use any other variable to store this value also. I'm executing it. So you can see we are getting the M1 objects, a variable value, that is 10, right? Similarly, if I want to access any other M2 objects, M2 dot get b variable value, it returns integer variable. So we can create one variable where you can save this value, because this is returning some value, right? And you can use that variable also. So this is M2 objects, b variable value we can access using getter method. Okay. Both ways I have shown you. You can directly concat it in the system.out.println statement, or you can save it for later use also. If you are using this, then a new memory will be allocated for C variable, and in that variable, we are storing the value, which is getting as a return value from the getter method B. Okay. So this is basic encapsulation concept we have learned. How to achieve the encapsulation, that is using private data members. To access these private data members outside of the class, you create accessor mutator methods or getter setter methods, which are public methods, okay, which are instance methods, and how to access those methods, how to use those methods, what are the use of that, those methods that we have seen in this example. Any doubt? Anyone?
Ma'am, can we initialize private int a equal to 10 there only? And again, if we are initializing it in the constructor, is
Yes,
it okay? Okay.
you can do that, but mostly we never do this thing. Okay, while
So the constructor we are installing.
yes,
Okay.
initialization we never do at the same time, because the main purpose of the constructor is to construct an object. Without a
Correct.
constructor, your value will not be set, right? So there is no need of giving the value here. You can give the same default value in the default constructor or anonymous block also.
Okay.
But it is not compulsory. You can give the value there also. That will be considered as default value itself.
So is the default constructor is must, because anyway the parameterized constructor is there, right?
If you are defining any of the constructor, that is fine. It is not
Okay.
compulsory to define. But if
Okay.
you are not defining any constructor, then JVM will create the default constructor itself.
Okay. Okay.
But there will
So
be no default values like this 10 and 20. It will
a
give
equal to
default values
0,
based
0.
on the data type.
Okay. 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 Okay.
Okay. So whatever the data type you are using, it will assign the value according to the data type. Yeah. But if you are not, if you are defining only parameterized constructor and not default constructor, then you have to always use the parameterized constructor itself. That in that case, the default constructor will never get created by the JVM. Okay, go through this example once. Then we will see one more.
So that means if I'm creating M1 int a comma int b, okay, I'm just missing this. I just don't want to use this default constructor. So every time JVM is going to call this parameterized constructor only.
Yes, if you are not defining the constructor, any constructor, any of the constructor,
Okay, okay.
that means no constructor in your class, then
At
only
that time,
it will
default
be-
constructor will be initialized automatically by JVM.
Yes,
Okay, okay. But if you are creating only parameterized constructor, it will call only parameterized constructor.
yes.
Okay.
You must call only parameterized constructor. If you want to call the default constructor, then you have to define that in your class. Okay.
But actually where we are hiding it, because we are anyway creating the private variables, we are initializing it, and through this getters and setters methods, we are returning the values which are already there in the class, 10 and 20.
Yes, correct.
So where we are hiding?
So we are
Encapsulation.
not giving direct access to this.
Okay.
Okay, so that is a
Indirect
data
access.
hiding concept. So if you are using any default, these members, if with the default accessibility or public accessibility, we can change the value any point of time without any restrictions, right? But here the restriction is you have to define the public getter setter methods, public methods to access this.
Okay.
If we have not defined any of the method, getter or setter method, so there is no point of changing the value or getting the value. Most of the time, for example, I will give as account, right? So we have an account number, which is accessible from anywhere. But we have a debit card number. Suppose debit card, right? For that debit card, we have a PIN. So that PIN should be private. We are not going to give that PIN to anyone, right? We don't have to give the access of that PIN to everyone, correct? Debit number should be again private, which should be accessible only to me or some other persons, right? If I want to change the value of the PIN value, if I want to change it, I have to go through the setter method. I have to check whether the setter method is there or not, and then we can set the value. You cannot directly change the value for this PIN data member, correct? You have to access that PIN variable through the setter method. And here we are providing the data hiding concept. So data should be hidden. Email ID. Email ID is accessible to everyone, but password is accessible to only you, right? So whenever you are changing the password, you are basically calling the private जो member है आपका password का, उसको आप access कर रहे हो through setter method and you are setting the value. But there will be no getter method because that should not get. So it is totally depend on you how you want to give the accesses. If you want to only give the access of get part, so that means you just need to return the values, whatever the data is set. So you can directly use only define the getter method. If you want to change or modify the values, then only define the setter method. If you don't want to do that, then don't write these methods. Okay, it is totally up to you how you are going to give the permissions, the read or read only permissions, write only permissions. It is basically we can give through these methods, public methods. If you are not defining a setter method, you cannot set the value. Suppose I am not defining the set B method. You cannot use this. You cannot set the value. You cannot modify the value for the B variable, right? So this is again A variable is, B variable is only read only, you can say. This variable we have make only as a read. We have only given the read permission. You cannot change the value. You cannot modify the value. How we are giving it? We are not defining the setter method, right? So this is totally based on your requirement. I have just explained that you can use these methods to set the values or modify the values of private data members, and these getter methods are used to get the values of the private data members. But you can provide whatever requirement of your application is. According to that, you can write these getters and setter methods or accessor or mutator methods so that members will be read only, write only. You can provide the permissions according to your need. Okay, that is why we say that these are hidden data hiding concept. In the encapsulation we can achieve it with the help of these private members. Understood?
So get and set words are important, right? We
Yes.
have to use get and set
Yes.
with any other rest of the function. As we have taken A and B, some other things also I can take it.
No, not some other. It is always same as the variable names.
Same as variable names.
Yes.
Okay.
I will explain in the next example. So here I am using A as a variable name. Okay. So the variable same I have used here, get A and set A. Okay. So get and set these statements are also needed. Not necessary. The syntax will be mostly we say it as it is same. You can use any other name also for the method which has the same functionality, like this get method is returning a value and the set method is setting a value. You can give any other name also if you want, but standard is always has the get and set keywords. Okay, and then the name of the variable, so that we can identify using that variable using that name which variable value we are actually setting. For suppose here I have one more variable string name, okay, which is again private member. Okay, so suppose I want to set a value for this name variable, then I can write down public void set name itself, okay, then string name, this dot name is equals to this name variable. Okay, this is the syntax for setting any variable private member. So the same variable name I have used here, only the thing is here I am using camel cases. That means first letter should be capital. Clear? Any doubt in this? Understood how to access these methods? Simple, these are instance methods.
Yes.
Okay. So these are instance methods. You can access it with the help of objects. Unless and until you create the object, there will be no memory allocation. Shall we go ahead? Anyone has any other doubt?
Suppose if I'm having number of properties like employee ID, employee name, employee city, employee country, like that. So every time I'll be having get and set for each and every property.
That is totally depend on you. If you want to give both accesses like getting and setting both part, then you can create both methods for all the properties. If you don't want to set for any particular member,
Okay.
if you want to.
But usually suppose it is a read and write property, then we'll be having get and set for all the properties.
Yes.
Okay.
It is your it is up to your requirement. If there is any, like I said, if for the password, I just want to give I just want to give the write access. I don't want to give the read access. Then I will not be writing get method for the password. I will be only writing setter method for the password. Because it is modifiable, right? We can modify the password, but we cannot access it.
Okay. So suppose it is employee ID. So get employee ID, set employee ID. Like that, we have to use all the words, right? Get and set.
Yes.
Okay.
That is a standard one. You can use any other name also, which will do the same functionality. But most of the time for the getter and setter methods, we always use the get and set words.
Okay.
Okay. Shall we go ahead?
Yes.
So this example we have seen. This example you can try as your homework. Okay. This human being example for calculation of BMI, and then you can set that BMI using this. Okay, just create this class, use these private members, create the public methods, and these two classes, you can add anything. BMI indexer will be used for calculating BMI and setting that BMI, and health analyzer, you can basically, this class will be used for setting the height and weight value, then call the BMI, calculate the BMI, and show that BMI. Okay, so this is basically one example which you have to try as a homework. Next, we are going to see the advantages and disadvantages of encapsulation. So first, we are going to see advantages. So first advantage is data hiding. As we have seen, the main advantage of encapsulation is always the data hiding. It is the way of restricting the access of our data members by hiding the implementation details, right? Then second one is increased flexibility. We can make the variables of the class read only or write only depending on our requirements, as I already said. Then the reusability. Encapsulation improves the reusability and it's easy to change with new requirements. Like I added new name variable, I just need to add 1 or 2 methods as per my requirements. That's it. Okay. These are advantages: data hiding, increased flexibility, reusability. These are advantages of encapsulation. Now, disadvantages. Disadvantages are code size. First one is a code size. Then the more instructions you have to write, increase the code execution. Code size is nothing but the length of the code increases, because for each and every variable, you have to create specified methods as per the read only and write only functionality or access. You have to write more methods, right? So encapsulation, as we need to provide all the methods with the specifiers, right? Then the more instructions, as the size of the code increases, therefore you need to provide additional instructions for every method to return a value, to set a value, right? So this is nothing but the disadvantage of using the encapsulation. As the increased code size, code execution will be also increased, right? Encapsulation result in increase in the duration of the program execution, because for a setting a value, it has to call the setter method, set the value, then come back to the calling function, right? So it is because more instructions are added to the code, therefore they require more time to execute. So these are few advantages and disadvantages of using encapsulation. Clear? Any doubt? Anyone? Understood? Okay. So we will see one more example of encapsulation. This is a very simple example we have seen. We will create one more example. In that example, I am creating a new class. Name of the class I am using as account. Okay. This is without a main method, that is a single class. Okay. In this class, I am going to define some properties of the account. Those are private members we are defining, like private integer account number, then private string account holder name, private double balance. Okay. These private members I have created inside the account class. Now we will generate constructors, okay, default constructor and parameterized constructor using the facility provided by the Eclipse, using source, generate constructor using fields, that is a parameterized constructor, and the default constructor that is from super class. Okay, I'm removing super keywords from here. They will set the default balance is equals to 10,000. Okay. Now, this we have generated. In a similar way, you can generate the getter and setter methods for these private members. Here we have written these methods by ourselves, right? हमने ये खुद से लिखे हैं, but Eclipse provide you one facility to generate the getter and setter methods for the private data members directly. In the same source, you have to go check the getter and setter generation. Second option, okay. Now you can select here the data members for which you want to generate the getter and setter methods, okay. So you can select only first getter, then setters, fields. Then you can only select the getter methods, like here you can you can write down this also. I just want to create the getter method for account number. I just want to create the setter method for account number. Okay, similar way. Basically, if you are selecting all, select all will generate getter and setter for all the members. If we are select only getters, then only getter methods will be selected. If you are selecting setter methods, only setter methods will be selected. So it is basically used to give the read only and write only functionality as per your need. Okay, so I am selecting both. Okay, I am selecting all here in this example, but you can select as per your need. So these are public methods automatically gets created. Okay, so you can see the syntax of this always starts with get, then the variable name in the camel case, set, then the variable name in the camel case. Okay, account folder name, account number. Only changing is on set and get method. Okay, and the signature of it. Setter method always have a parameter. It is always used to set a single parameter value itself. It will never have multiple parameters. And most of the time, the return type of the setter method is void. Return type of the getter method always changes depending on the data type. Okay, so this is the way you can generate it, and you can save your time for writing all the methods, public methods. Okay. If you have multiple members, you can simply use this functionality given by the Eclipse so that your class will be ready within a second. Within few minutes, it will not require more time to create it, because for each and every member, you don't have to write all the methods. You can directly generate it. This is the first class. Okay. Now we will create one more class. In that class, we will access, we will some accounts, and we will account demo. This class will have static, main method, static main method. So basically here we are going to perform some operations. This is again, you can save as a small project also. Okay. Here we are going to create multiple accounts. So to save those accounts, we are going to create array. Okay. So here we are using object array concept to save those accounts. So first of all, I'm going to use account array as the name is equals to new account of size. Maximum size I am defining as 10. Okay. This account array should be allocated the memory only once, and it should be shared among all the accounts. So I am making this array as static. You can create the array also as static. Okay. So this accounts array is static. The memory allocation only done once, and you can access this without creating any object. You can access it directly by class name. Okay. Now, to save the values into this account, we need index variable, right? So that index variable is integer, and we are initializing it to 0. But if I am using this index, maybe the value will be changed, as this is an instance variable, right? I don't want to make this variable as instance variables. I want to make it as a shared member, and the memory allocation should be done only once, so that I am making this variable as static index 0. So it is initialized to 0 once, memory is allocated only once. Now in this example, we are going to perform the operations like account details, getting first account details. First operation is account details. Or you can say second operation is deposit money. Third operation is withdraw money. Fourth operation, check balance. So instead of this account details means you can open the account and view the details. Okay, so here I will change the name, open account, and check balance. Here I will add check account details. Okay. And last one is exit. Sixth is exit. So this operations we are going to perform. Every operation we are going to perform on this static array and using the static index. So first operation, we have to write down these operations into menu, and we are this menu items we are going to show to the user, and user will select any operation. Okay, so first of all, we will write all these things into system.out.println. So I'm writing it. Open new account /n. Second, deposit money. Third, /n. Using /n, you can write it down as a new line, right? So here we are selecting deposit money, open new account, withdraw money. Third, fourth one is check balance. Fifth one is check account details. And last one is exit. All these things I have written into this system.out.println statement. To take the input from the user, we need the scanner. System.in, which is used for taking input. We will import the scanner, java.util.scanner, and we will close this scanner sc.close at the end. After displaying this menu, we will ask user to select operation. System.out.println, select operation. And we will read it into one variable, integer variable, because we are showing the menu items into integer, right? The variable name I am using as choice or operation is equals to sc.nextInt. If you are using nextInt here, then you have to use next line once, or simply you can use the next line method to read it and parse the value into integer. So I'm using here sc.nextLine just to leave one line of input. Okay. Now, after reading the operation value, we will use switch case to pass this operation. Now, I want to perform all these things until the user select exit. Okay, so to do this operation multiple times, we are using do while loop here. While will always have the condition. For that condition, I need to declare this variable outside of this do loop. Because we are going to perform, write down the condition on this, and if you are writing it inside or defining it inside of the do loop, then it will become local variable. So the condition will be operation is not equal to 6 because 6 is our exit case. Okay. Now in this switch case, we will write down case 1 for open account, break. Second case 2 for deposit, break. Case 3 for withdraw, break. Case 4 for balance, break. Case 5. Case 5 is for account details, break, and last one is case 6 for exit. So for exit, you can simply write down one statement, thank you, and then we will use system classes exit methods with some status 0 or 1, anything, to exit this execution and break. Here we are defining the default case with the statement select correct operation. Okay, so this is a basic thing we have created. Now, in this basic structure, you will try to perform these operations, okay, on this account array. This is your homework. If not able to do, I will explain it tomorrow session, but this is your homework. You have to try this on your own to perform the operations, how to create a new account details into this and store it in this account array. How will you deposit? How will you withdraw? So that operations you will try on your own. Okay. First try on your own. If not possible, I will explain those tomorrow. Okay. Thank you everyone. You can take a screenshot of this and you can try this, or I will share these files into the chat box. I'm sharing these files into chat box. You can download those files and complete this part. Logic you have to build on your own. Okay. Thank you, everyone. We will end our session for today here. We will continue tomorrow with the same example if you are not able to complete it. If not, if you have already completed it, then we will continue with the next topic. Bye. You may leave.